Hi everyone, I'm actually here underneath the apple tree trying to get a bit of shade. It's quite hot here today. Now, before we get into this week's garden update, I did just want to say to you that for some reason I woke up this morning at like 2:30 a.m. and I wasn't able to go back to sleep. So I recorded the video or the update this morning. I hope I make sense. I think I do, but if I seem a little bit off, it could be due to the fact that I feel slightly delirious. Anyway, let's get into it now. These little guys around the garden, they're called bush crickets, I believe. A couple of evenings ago I found one of these eating the petals off one of my dahlia flowers. I've got a new favourite area this week in the garden, just past these seed heads from the foxgloves. So here it is, the area that I'm most enjoying. For me, this little section feels like I'm in a fairy garden. It's full of these beautiful cosmos flowers, zinnias, verbena, and a self-seeded tomato plant. There's a trellis here made out of these branches from a tree I cut back during the winter time, and climbing up it, I have these lovely little pickling cucumbers. To me, this just looks so dreamy, and it's exactly the way I wish my whole entire garden looked. I want to give you a bit of an update over here where the raised garden beds are. Here's one of the rock mix snapdragon plants, and this is the very first one to flower. Sprawling along this bed, I have the red noodle snake beans that are looking lovely and healthy. The only thing is now, I really need to encourage them to grow up this trellis and not to be growing along here. There's another job that needs to be done in these garden beds where I have a couple of Thai pink egg tomato plants growing. You can see here that the plants have kind of flopped over, and even though they are a bush variety, I still will come in here and stake them up, because what's happening at the moment is the foliage from these plants is covering up all of my basil. Here I've got a few different types of chilies and capsicums. These are the long sweet yellow capsicums. There's quite a lot to pick off on this plant. This one here is called Purple Tiger, and you can see there that it has this beautiful variegation all over its foliage. Here's one of its chilies, and that will eventually change to red. Despite its size, it's not as spicy as you may think. I just took a little nip of this one, and I use these when I'm pickling because I think they add a nice little mild flavour into the brine, and as well as that, they look pretty too. And the last one to show you today are these really long, mild Thai chilies, which, like the tiger chilies, will eventually change to a red colour. Oh, look at this. There's so many weeds everywhere. They're just taking over. And I have to say that this one is one of the worst to have in my garden. Let's leave this area now and head down to the very back of the garden, where I want to show you my new favourite flower. I just cannot get over how stunning this flower is. It's a dahlia called Bora Bora. I believe that's its name. I did lose the tag, but I'm almost certain that's what it's called. It's so fiery and intense. I'm absolutely in love with it. And you know what? I'm going to grow a lot more of it next year. There's so many spider webs everywhere. My friend and I were talking about this yesterday, that you need to bring a stick with you when you go out on your morning garden wanders to brush all of these webs out of the way. Otherwise you just get covered in them. I did a lot of work out here in the front during the week. Let me take a big step back and I'll show you. It's actually more than just a few steps. A couple of meters would be more correct. This area here is where I usually get my bulk supplies delivered, like mulch and mushroom compost. I ended up having some mushroom compost left over in this area that I never ended up using elsewhere in the garden. So not to let it go to waste, and knowing that I will not be getting another delivery until late autumn, early winter. What I've done is I've just flattened it all out in this section, and then with most of those zinnia seedlings that I had in the cell trays, I ended up planting them in this quite large bed. I would say roughly it's about 2 meters by 4 meters. And I've marked the area out with stakes and twine, just so my kids don't accidentally walk over them. I also weeded out this area that has all of these self-seeded amaranth Love Lies Bleeding. I put down this cardboard to kill off the grass underneath. I might end up just mulching it as a walkway, or there is a possibility that I can connect these two garden beds together. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I'll have to think about it. But look at this. As soon as I put the cardboard down, my kids picked it up and decided to use it as a slide. We have this area near the vine patch that's quite steep, so they had great fun with this for a little while, but I have taken it back now. Here comes the sun. I hope you're kind of getting the angles, but I'm now on the opposite side of this new bed. So the amaranth is there, cardboard, and the other garden area. So in this section, I thought since this amaranth was already here, I put in a few more varieties. So I have Perfecta, Splendor, and some more of the velvet curtains in here too. And I'm still not quite sure what I'm going to put in this front section. I was thinking I might put some of my squash, second round squash in here, or flowers. Do you ever hear people talking about Instagram photos, like the ones they post on their grid versus reality? Let me show you my little version. So this area is looking kind of pretty. It's got those lovely clusters of yellow fennel flowers and a few zinnias popping through here and there. But the true reality of this area looks very different. If I zoom out, just you wait and see what's going on here. There's grass a couple of foot tall. There's weeds everywhere. That passion fruit vine, the suckers have covered the fence again. You can't even see the timber. Yeah, it's snake heaven, I reckon. And speaking of snakes, yesterday evening there was one on our driveway, so I'm a little bit apprehensive to get stuck into here. I might try and do it on a cool day, but it really has just been perfect conditions. I mean, I'm not complaining. The weather has been amazing. We've got so much rain and lovely warm days. But, you know, this is what happens. The place is just so overgrown. And I want to show you this because I don't want you to ever think that my garden is always looking perfect. It's far from it. I try and show you the highlights from week to week. But then I also want to be able to share this with you to show you that, you know, it can be a struggle sometimes trying to balance things out and keeping on top of everything that needs to be done. Today I discovered something hidden under the zucchini foliage, camouflaged by all the weeds and grass growing everywhere. It was this, a giant zucchini. Just accidentally snapped it, but this will give you an idea of how big it is. Well, we've come to the end of this week's garden update. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, and I'll see you all again next Friday.